I think it's time. Are you sensing a theme? It's Valentine's Day weekend, you know. In case you didn't, I think we've told you through our song choices and meditation and daily word, and we're not stopping now. So this image was painted by my friend Jenny Hahn, who's an artist who works in and around Unity Village. She's also a spiritual leader there. And she painted it for a specific purpose. It was her response to the Orlando shootings in June of 2016, which was a gay nightclub. And there was, I think, 49 people died. So she painted this to raise money to send to the families. And she's still selling it. I'll give you information about it later if you wanted to purchase it. But it continues to speak to me in so many ways. It comes up in my meditations, and every time I look at it, it means something different to me. So right now when I look at it, I see a broken heart that keeps being a heart. I see diverse colors and shapes, sizes, all joining together. I see shadows in that brokenness that maybe bring the pieces together in spite of the shadows, or maybe the shadows are what urge the pieces to stick together. And so what if those things that look like brokenness are really supportive mesh that connect us, like scar tissue? It's actually stronger. So now those black spaces go from being empty space to a connective net. Some of my family members had a recent experience where they helped a friend get a place to live, and it seemed to be a win-win, and it was for a while. And then nobody knows really for sure what happened, but the friend went into a downward spiral and became from a trusted professional to being combative, destructive, and untrustworthy. And he stopped paying rent, and after several months of that, he was evicted, and he left his things behind. And after a few more months and a few lawyers getting involved, finally, all of his things were put out on the curb, and he was living in his SUV and parked it to watch over his stuff. And he knew that the trash pickup was going to be in a day or two, so we don't know what happened really. Just after the day of trash pickup, all of the things were gone, and he was gone as well. And when my brother was telling me the story, we all said, "There, but for the grace of God, go I." And I saw that this looked like somebody who may have at least thought he burned all of his bridges, that he was unable for whatever reason to drop that combativeness and be honest and just ask for help. And I told my brother that I was comforted by the thought that I didn't think he would ever meet the same fate because he had such strong friendships, and his friends know the truth of him even when he might forget. And so I hope that this fellow remembered that he had a friend like that and called on them to help him move his things and get himself and all of his stuff to a safer place. So the grace of God is always there. We're the ones who have to open ourselves up to it. We have to acknowledge its presence and know that it's at work and let it work through us. It's like having electricity in our house but refusing to flip the switch. Eric Butterworth described prayer that way. He said, and I'm paraphrasing, that you wouldn't beg the light to come on, sit in front of the switch and say, "Oh, please, light, I beg of you." That's not what we do, especially in Unity, affirmative prayer. We take the action and we flip the switch, and the light is there. So we acknowledge the source, and then we take the action. Actually, I did mark in Eric Butterworth's Discover the Power Within You what he actually said, at least in one of the places. How do you ask the sun for sunlight? By getting out in the sun. How do you ask electricity for light for your lamp? By turning on the switch. How do you ask God for what you want? By getting into the Spirit. It is not something that God must do for you. It is what you must do for yourself to enable God to do for you that which is his ceaseless longing to do. It is the Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. That's from Luke 12:32. So in the world today, I think more than ever before, perhaps, we're being called to take that action, to flip the switch and to turn on the light. I also see a pattern in the world that indicates a huge paradigm shift from reliance on someone outside of us to take care of us to self-reliance and connected action. It's something that Unity has been teaching and working on helping us all wrap our heads around for over 100 years. The power is within us. And so this same image can now look like a stained glass window with a light shining from behind it. It can even look like a butterfly wing after its transformation. We still live in a world, though, where we have looked to elected officials to take care of us, or our company, or our bosses, or our teachers. And we're now being called to take our power back, but not to wield it alone. The power is in the network. It's knowing that we're all connected. And in this, you see that there's no one piece that's bigger than all the others, but they're in a network. If you think of how we've gone from a world where we were at the end of a one-way stream of information that trickled down to us through newspapers, radio, television, and now we're in a world where each of us is a 2 or more direction point of information. Somebody's phone is giving directions. Kind of like that, 2 or more way point of information. So we connect through more than just one channel, and we're not just receivers, but we're also broadcasters. So we take in and we send out energy and information. It's a complete shift in how we experience the world, where we used to be just receivers of information coming to us. And once we connect, we can not only direct our energy, but we're held by the network that we've chosen, and we feed a system that feeds us back. And this shift is also something that's been happening in Unity for a while. We say it every week at the end of our service with the prayer for protection. The white lines are the original lines that James Dillett Freeman, Unity's poet laureate, wrote for soldiers in World War II, because he thought, yea, though I walk through the valley, or the shadow of the valley of death, was not that comforting to people. So Unity asked him to come up with something. But you can see in the language that he was talking about the outside God, the infinite God. And then Reverend Dr. Paul Hasselbeck, who's the author of the textbook Heart-Centered Metaphysics, as well as many other things, he rewrote it, or adapted it, to reflect Unity's recent emphasis on oneness language. So if we read it together, as we do at the end, but let's really think about it, the light of God surrounds us. We are the light of God. The love of God enfolds us. We are the love of God. The power of God protects us. We are the power of God. The presence of God watches over us. We are the presence of God. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. It's not a new idea. Myrtle Fillmore, one of Unity's co-founders, understood that we see God in these different ways when she said, sometimes we pray to a God outside of ourselves, but it's the God in the midst of us that frees and heals. So we're constantly in the middle of this paradox where we're present and operating on 2 or more levels at the same time. We experience God as infinite, but also as intimate, like with us, like Jesus, or innermost at the center of our being. I actually got this from a Catholic website. So, mind, body, spirit, mind, idea, expression. It's Unity's version of the Trinity. And we can also say community, nation, world. We could do individual, community, nation. I mean, we're operating on 3 levels at all times. On the personal level, Jesus showed us how to harness the power within us and bring it into our world. He said, love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. There's that 3 again. And he also said, The second commandment is like it: love your neighbor as yourself. So he starts with the 3 places within us: heart, soul, mind, and then send it outward to share it. And notice he didn't say love your family as yourself or love your romantic partner as yourself, because those are people you love anyway, at least hopefully. He said your neighbor. So those are the random people who end up sharing space with you in the world, and you don't have a choice. So whether you want them next door to you or not, they're there. Whether you want them in your community, they're there. So that's who we're supposed to share our love with. That love affair that we're having with God inside of ourselves, with our heart, soul, and mind, that's what we're supposed to share with strangers, with neighbors. So on this Valentine's Day weekend, we're reminded that romantic love is the closest that most humans ever get to feeling union, oneness, boundaries drop to join with another. And we may not all be in a romance or experience oneness with God on a constant basis, although we may get glimpses in meditation. But we can all experience compassion and work to build heart connections and community. The word compassion is come, together, like co, and passion, to feel. Community suggests that we enjoy a sense of oneness, unity, together. That together we have all that we need to nurture what we value, and we share a passion for those values. So when we do that, there's power in numbers, and we are further empowered to create the world we envision. In addition to being the season for Valentine's, we also find ourselves in the midst of the 20th annual Season for Nonviolence, which I think we should rename the Season for Peace and Compassion, and maybe activism. The icons that are honored during this campaign, which was started by the Association for Global New Thought, are Gandhi, the Dalai Lama, Martin Luther King Jr., Cesar Chavez, and Nelson Mandela. And since I've already renamed it to Peace and Compassion, I thought I'd throw in some women too. Like Mother Teresa, Aung San Suu Kyi, Eleanor Roosevelt, Marianne Williamson, and Myrtle Fillmore. So then how do we at Unity of the Oaks emulate these giants of influence that I just mentioned? And as you have gathered, I think we do it one heart at a time, connecting with other hearts. And we're already doing it. For example, this is what our hall looks like throughout the rest of the week. Before we come on Sunday mornings, it looks like this. This is the transformation that about 20 of us do together every Sunday. It takes so many hearts, so many dedicated people, teams of loving volunteers, and paid staff to create the space that we get to experience each week. And it starts with Ray, the guy who sets up the chairs for us. There's the cleaning crew. Julian comes early to start setting up the sound equipment. All of this is in a closet in the hallway until people come and unfold it all. Jack comes early to set up the music. The board member on duty puts the stage up. I come and do slideshow stuff. Richard and my mom, Cheryl, coordinate everything. Let's see, we have hospitality people. It could be 2 or 3 people who roll the tea cart out from the back and start setting up everything. Our ambassadors hang the banners and greet you at the door. Susan Hart and the prayer ministers pray up the space, blessing every chair. And then the prayer chaplains. The youth ministry and bookstore keep the office going. I counted like about, not counting Molly, Martha Harris and the flower team. I mean, it's about 18 to 20 people every Sunday. So most of our energy is creating Sunday, and that's why Molly thanks everybody at the end of the service. And then our energy goes toward classes and prayers in the office during the week. And that's ours to do. And even if we had a bigger space, which we envision and hope for, this would still be our mission. We would just be able to free the energy of the 20 people who have to set up every Sunday and be able to do our mission more easily. We would just be able to do what we do more, which is exciting. And until then, we'll keep doing it as we do it. But there are many times during the week in the office that we get phone calls from somebody who can't pay their rent, people who need food or gas, people who walk in who really need mental health professionals, people we've never met before who come to us for help. And do you know what Reverend Molly or myself do then? Bet you don't. Because of Molly's connection with the Conejo Valley Interfaith Association, we have a connection. We have connections to bigger churches, bigger communities who can help in different ways. So most of what the Conejo Valley Interfaith, when they raise funds, it's funneled into LSS, which is Lutheran Social Services. It's called LSS Community Care now. And you can find it online, that's from their website. They operate programs like the Conejo Valley Meal and Shelter, which schedules every day of the week. There's a different religious center that hosts an evening meal and a place to stay overnight for homeless people. And it's coordinated and scheduled for a season at a time. Remember our shoe drive donation drive thing that we did recently. Our Mormon brothers and sisters asked us to help because it was a Mormon thrift store that was taking all of our shoe donations. They put in a recent newsletter that they collected 30 boxes of shoes, but 13 boxes were from us. The Mormon Center has thousands of families, so our comparatively small group is mighty. Our hearts are big, and we give generously. Last week I told you about the Stand with the Muslim Brothers and Sisters event. Molly went, and she said hundreds of people showed up. And remember the Peace Walk? That was from the Conejo Valley Interfaith as well. And in your bulletin there's a flyer. There's a potluck that's welcoming the strangers. Those are refugees that have come to our community, and instead of treating them as strangers, the Interfaith Association wants to welcome them with a potluck, let them meet people from the different faiths and communities. And the Women's Association inside the Conejo Valley Interfaith has been making quilts to donate to the different families. So if you're interested in taking part in any of the interfaith things, go to this potluck, or Molly or I can tell you more about the different things they do. So our interfaith connections help us make a difference in our community, but how can we reach those who aren't already on a walk of faith? In a world with such apparent divisiveness, how can we share unity with those in our community who still feel separate and alone? So this is something called outreach. We need to find a way to reach out and connect, but we need to do it in a way that doesn't exhaust or deplete us. Communities are living, breathing things, so we want to honor our boundaries, know what is ours to do, put the oxygen masks on ourselves first, and the one thing we know we have is heart. See? So what I see in the world around us is that there are people in fear, people who are seeing their security slip away. And what is more comforting than knowing that your friends, your neighbors, your community has your back? That should anything happen, you're not alone, because help is at hand. This is how I feel about this community. This is something that we've co-created together. And even if it's not in our nature to ask for help, I know it's not really in mine. I know that help is there, that if I just ask, there are people to pray with me and support me in love. And isn't that something we want our whole community to know is available to them? Fear is putting our faith in duality, in more than one power. We know that there's only one presence and one power. So our job is to make ourselves available to comfort those in fear, to help them direct their energy more constructively. Fear is the power at the root of terrorism. We're afraid of terrorist attacks, but the terrorists are also afraid, which is why they're striking out. And there are basic personality types in the world. Some are conservative, some are progressive. And they each seek out different ways to respond to the world. Conservatives seek to protect and conserve what they value. Progressives seek ways to build and improve upon what they value. But we need all types of people. We need all of them to work together. Neither is completely right or wrong. They're just different approaches. So we can work to bridge that gap. We've all heard stories where a random act of kindness has changed somebody's heart, pulled somebody back from the brink of suicide, or talked them down from an act of violence. And that's a wonderful thing, miraculous, but it's also a one-time thing. they also need support in learning how to see things differently. Many of you met my goddaughter when she was out here for several months. I could see that she and her family, where they lived, had no community resources to fall back on. So I thought if she came here, I was really excited to share my community with her and give her the support so she could confidently go out and do the things that she wanted to do. But she didn't really understand how to move from being solitary and mistrustful to suddenly trusting and connecting. It was something that we have to teach. And so in some cases, we have to unlearn what we've already learned and then allow ourselves to be taught. So shifting paradigms based on an inspired new thought, it takes time to apply to every aspect of our life. And it's better done when you have a whole community that's on the same path. Next Sunday, our friend Reverend Dinah Chapman, who's also in your bulletin, that's her little smiling face right there, she's going to be here to talk more about how we can connect in community. And she and I had lots of interesting chats when we were both at Unity Village, because healing the separation that communities create between each other is a human thing. It happens all over the world. In America, it may look black and white, pun intended, but in other parts of the world, people have the same skin color and still find a way to divide themselves into us and them. But unity, oneness, transcends all of that when we practice it. So we've invited everybody in our community to join us next week for Reverend Dinah's talk and the workshop afterwards. And I invite you all to sign up as well and bring friends, as Jimmy said earlier. We put it out in the Ventura County Star and all the Acorn newspapers. It's on Facebook as a Facebook event, so share it. I'm excited too because the workbook she's using, which everybody gets with the $35 registration fee, was written by the man who wrote the book, Creating a World That Works for All. So he's going to teach us how to be in community through that book. So really what we want to do is let people know that we see them, that we know the truth with a capital T about them. I once heard that homeless people really are just hungering for somebody to look them in the eye and let them know that they are seen, that somebody acknowledges their existence, because so many people blank them out because they feel whatever they feel. To connect. A random act of kindness can cheer a person up or temporarily restore their faith in the goodness of humanity, but it won't help them find us. So we want to invite them to learn what we practice and to share the goodness of our community. We want to make connections from the heart and make it possible for them to keep the connection once it's created, if they like. So I created these cards, and my lovely assistants are going to hand them out. Everybody can take, 2, 3, 5, however many, 10, I've got plenty. So first, these cards are my Valentine to you. There's enough for the whole class. It affirms that I see your light shining, and I encourage you to keep it up. Secondly, I invite you to give it away as a gift that keeps on giving. It can be a Valentine to somebody that you meet or one of your friends. It's also an invitation to join us, a way to learn more about us. So you all are being deputized and empowered to share all the good that we've got here. So the one side affirms that you see their light shining, their heart glowing, that you know the truth of them. And in our core values, which you can find on our website, our top core value, number 1, is that we are loving. Strong and light hearts, we're glowing. With every action, we send ripples out into the world. There's light blue for imagination and yellow for wisdom, gold for understanding and royal blue for faith from our 12 powers, which is on the back of your bulletin. These are all things that we need to walk through the world with an open heart, an open mind, open eyes, and open arms. We've got heart, so let's share it. And the other side, of course, tells them where to find us. You can decide how you want to share these cards. If you want to approach someone who looks downhearted and just put a smile on their face, if you want to buy coffee for the person in line behind you, if you want to help someone at the supermarket and decide you want to invite them, however it works for you. Maybe you've been wanting to invite a friend but didn't have our information handy, so now you have a calling card. So may all your hearts be aglow this Valentine's weekend. May they be full of compassion and peace. May you feel the love that's available in this community. And keep shining your light. Thank you.